Hello, in this video I'm going to go over another one of my fun builds that I have created. I'm calling this build Pop Goes the Lich. As you can see, I'm utilizing the Nerien'eth monster set, uh, and I have the class set Corpseburster on this build, so you do need to be a Necromancer base class in order to do this build if you want to run it. And then I have a craftable set called Oblivion's Foe. You can see it's got the skull belt piece there. And then I am using the Velothi Ur-Mythic with that. So this is another one of those 2 5-piece sets with a Mythic and a monster set. So I wanted to just start off in this screen so I could just show you kind of the cool look of the armor. As if you look closely on the chest there's a Necromancer logo. Just thought it was kind of a cool look for the armor and the gear sets themselves. Nerien'eth is kind of funny. It looks like he's got a messed up orange peel in his mouth or something. But we'll load into the character here, and I'll go over the build, and we'll talk about what this is essentially. So basically, just like all the other fun builds I have done, the front bar set is Corpseburster, and the back bar set is the craftable set Oblivion's Foe. I will go over how you can get those sets here as soon as I load in. Okay, so I'm here at my house. We'll go to the transmute station for that. The sets that you can build. The Velothi Ur-Mythic is obviously uh, and it's a mythic, and you'll have to get that by obtaining the leads and the antiquities, and that is listed at the very bottom here. You should have this if you are fairly active in the game. This is a very powerful mythic, very, very strong in dungeons and trials and overland as well, especially. So the other gear sets that I have on here from the base game dungeon Crypt of Hearts 2, Nerien'eth is a very good damaging set. It activates when you deal direct damage. And so this is going to be very easy to proc on this build because of all the direct damage that I have on here. The other set that I'm running is from Infinite Archive, and you can find those sets in this ribbon here. And you'll go down to the Necromancer ribbon, and it is the very first set that's in here. It gives you 2 lines of weapon damage with a line of critical chance. And then whenever you consume a corpse, you make that corpse explode for magic damage in an area of 5 meters. It applies minor breach to the enemy, and that is scaled by your weapon damage. Also, if you stack a lot of Gravelord's abilities on your bar, you can increase how much that damage is by 10% per skill. So really important to keep track of how you can scale this because it can really hit super hard. And there's an easy free way of activating it. So I'm going to go through all of that in the build here, so stay tuned. If at any point in the video that I am being a little bit long-winded, I'm putting chapters in all of my videos. You can jump ahead to whichever section that you want to jump. So that is always in place. I will just also say, check out my description. I put a lot of content in there, such as links to videos I may reference or just important information about what I cover in the video is also detailed there as well. So let's get into it. As I've said, this is a Magicka build, 64 points into Magicka. I am a Necromancer base because I am using the Corpseburster set, and then I paired this with Adric's Spear and Assassination. These 2 skill lines are really, really powerful because their passives pretty much are true passives, except for this is a slot one here, but these other ones are pretty much true passives. You do have to activate an ability here, which is very simple to keep up by using the Blazing Spear, but for the most part, this is a skill line that doesn't take up a lot of your bar space. So you can kind of sprinkle this in and get a lot of power in your build by only slotting one skill, and then you're pretty much taking advantage of all of these class passives right here. The assassination is very similar. This is a true passive here. All you have to do is be flanking an enemy. So in most cases in solo, you're probably not going to flank too much unless you're using a tank companion to turn them around with a taunt. So this could be not as potent in solo environments. This one here, when you kill enemies, you gain resources back. This is a true passive. As you can see, it's not required to slot an ability or have anything active. So that can help you with sustain. The critical chance while having skills slotted. So this is one of those that you have to have a ability slotted to gain the increase in critical chance. And then the hemorrhage passive, you have to have something slotted. So basically with the two assassination and Adric Spear, if you slot one skill of each of those on your bar, then you're basically grabbing everything you can from those two skill lines passive wise, and really generating a lot of power in your build. And then you can just pair that with something that is lacking from these two. So what the Gravelord's skill line is really good at, it gives you a lot of critical chance in execute. It gives you AoE damage. It gives you penetration, and it gives you a buff to your damage over time. So, and then this will reduce the cost of your spells while you have Sacrificial Bones active, or if you have your Archer out. So if your Archer is out, then your next Sacrificial Bones, Skeletal Mage, or Spirit Mender is reduced. So basically it makes this skill reduced by a lot the next time you cast it. So that is helpful. The other thing that this has is damage buffs with a free skill to cast. This gives you major prophecy and savagery, a health recovery while it's active, and it increases your damage while it's slotted. And so having this slotted on your front bar is a really easy way to obtain buffs from these passives while basically not costing you any resources, even if you activate it. It doesn't cost anything. This is a free skill. And spoiler alert, this is a corpse consumer. So this is going to proc your Corpseburster set for free without costing anything. So even if you're out of resources, you can pop this. If there's a corpse on the ground in an ad pull, this is a crazy easy thing to do. You could just pop this every second and really blow up a lot of stuff. It's a really fun set to use. This is another corpse consumer. It may not look like it from the standpoint of initial glance, but if you look down here at the center here, the middle paragraph, it consumes a corpse to increase damage to the skill. So if you've got an enemy on the ground dead, all you have to do is put this out there like that, and boom, it's going to consume it, and it will also explode the Corpseburster set. So we have two skills on our bar here that will consume corpses. So the front bar so far is Blazing Spear from the Templar, Mystic Siphon, Unnerving Boneyard. Are spammable on the set. I'm doing a little bit of a different setup here for a Magicka build. This is my spammable, and it's a stamina spammable, which is very odd, I know. But I have kind of figured out a unique way of sustaining a spammable that is not your main source, and it works really well, actually, in content especially. What I do is I run a different food, but I'm going to stay on the skills here, and I'll cover the food after I get done with this section. Venom Skull, the unique part of this is while you have the Gravelord's Sacrifice active, this creates a corpse. So that was one of the reworks they did with Necromancer, which I know a lot of people hated. They took away the regular normal blast bones where it had a flaming skull that ran at enemies and blew up. Instead, this corpse runs at you, which is kind of problematic if you're wanting to consume a corpse where the enemies are. This solves that problem in a way by throwing the poisoned skull and creating a corpse in the area of the enemy. So I can go down here to my combat dummies and display that. And then before we finish that up, I'm going to just cover the fact that I'm using the Nightblade's Impale Execute here. It's the Magicka version. I will just cover the back bar really quickly. I'm using the stamina version of the Archer. The reason why I'm doing that is just to help with sustain by balancing out costs of skills, magic, and stamina mixed in. And then we have a Bloody Burst here. This is a bleed damage over time that's going to give me minor courage. This is the Soul Burst Scribe skill using Bleed, Lingering Torment, and Minor Courage. If you want to build that skill out like I have it, that's how you do it. So again, that's Bleed, Lingering Torment, and Minor Courage. So that's going to give me 215 weapon spell damage while this is active. This also is the skill that procs my back bar set. I will go over the sets as well after this. Gravelord Sacrifice. This is here for a number of issues to increase the damage of my damage over time skills as well as my Necromancer abilities. Even if something is not damage over time, such as this hit right here, the Gravelord Sacrifice increases the damage of that by 15% because it is a Necromancer ability. So keep that in mind. Anything that's a Necromancer ability, all of these are increased by 15% from the Gravelord Sacrifice skill. And it also is a fairly cheap skill to handle because when you cast it, your next one is quite cheap. So Blockade of Fire is my back bar skill. And then I have Merciless Resolve here for a heal if I need it. And then it's also there to give me Major Prophecy and Savagery on both bars. So I have my Major Brutality buff here, Major Savagery and Prophecy here. If you activate this, this also gives you Major Prophecy and Savagery, but I like to just have a passive buff doing that. And then my back bar is Soul Harvest. This is here to essentially just give me ultimate when I kill stuff. I don't really use it a whole lot. I pretty much use the Colossus because it inflicts major vulnerability. It's fairly cheap, and I usually get ultimate back pretty quickly on this. So let's go into the gear sets. As I said before, we're using Nerien'eth. That gives you a 129 weapon damage for the one piece, and then you have a 15% chance to summon a Lich crystal that explodes with damage when you deal direct damage. So this is procced off of direct damage, which is instant damage. If you want to see how this set looks on its own, I have done a video on this. I will link that video in the description so that you can watch that if you're interested. The next set, the Corpseburster set, comes from Infinite Archive. This does take some farming to obtain. These are bound when you obtain them, so you can't really sell them on traders, unfortunately. But it is a very powerful set and a very good set if you know how to use it. It's very, very powerful. It's basically an explosion set. I will show you the mechanic of that, but before I do, I need to cover my last gear set here, the Oblivion's Foe. This is actually a pretty powerful set for crafting because of how many buffs it has. It's got 4 buffs with basically a double 5-piece buff. It's got a line of weapon damage, 1 line of penetration, 1 line of critical chance, and then the 5th buff is another line of weapon damage. And then when you deal damage with soul magic, this also inflicts the target with a 10-second dot that does quite a bit of damage if they are not already marked. And this effect can scale off your weapon and spell damage. Now, because you can see here, this does not have a cooldown, you can essentially just hit this on enemies as long as they're not marked already. So I'll show that. Let me take this. Let me take the belt off so that when I proc my bleed damage here, it'll just hit them with the spell, and you can see what it looks like without the set active, because I want to highlight what this set looks like, because this whole purpose of this build is to make a fun visual build to play around with, doing overland stuff or whatnot. This is a fairly decent damaging build, but I would say it's not recommended for trials. But here we go. Here's the bleed skill, and there you can see the Lich chain hit right there for Nerien'eth, because of the very first part of the skill is direct damage. And as you can see, they are bleeding. So we'll blow out the candles on those guys. And we'll put the sash back on. And as you can see, this does an initial bleed damage so that it procs Nerien'eth as well, because it has that direct damage component, and then it has a damage over time ticker. So now we're going to activate the bleed damage with Oblivion's Foe, and what this is going to do, it's going to put a glow effect on all these guys. It's really kind of cool to see. So there they are. They're all glowing. That's the difference of what this set does. And as you can see, they have 2 dots on them. The dot from the Oblivion's Foe and the dot from the skill, the bleed damage soul burst as well. And the thing to keep in mind if you're going to run this, there are 2 different timers here that you got to know about. The Oblivion's Foe only lasts for 10 seconds. The skill timer on the blood burst here is 20 seconds. So you'll need to basically fire this off at halftime, basically, if you want to keep the Oblivion's Foe active. So if you're going to try and parse with this, you may end up seeing that the Oblivion's Foe is not doing much damage, and that might be because you're not firing this skill here until it runs out itself, and that's basically going to have 50% uptime on the Oblivion's Foe. So what you need to do as soon as it hits 10 seconds right there is fire it again. And the reason why it has to be on the back bar is because the set is not active on the front bar for the 5-piece kicker. To show you that, the front bar has 2 daggers, 1 of each set, so that basically what happens is just like I've done in my previous fun videos, we've got the Corpseburster active on the front bar for 5-piece, and then I have 4 pieces always active of the other set as well. And then I have an Inferno. I'll just do the gear while I'm here. Corpseburster front bar Nirnhoned dagger with a flame enchantment. Then the offhand front bar dagger is the dagger of Oblivion's Foe that is charged with a poison glyph. Then my back bar weapon is an Inferno Staff of Oblivion's Foe that is infused with a weapon damage glyph. Then I have, for the monster mask, a medium Divine's Nerien'eth mask with a Magicka glyph. The shoulder piece is a medium arm cop of Nerien'eth in Divines with a Magicka glyph. The chest piece is Corpseburster in Divines, a medium jack with a Magicka glyph. The waist is a sash of Oblivion's Foe in Divines with a Magicka glyph. Now, one small note here, if you are building with gear sets and you are looking to implement a light piece of gear in your setup like I have here, I have 6 pieces of medium with 1 light. This is the best place to put it, in my opinion, because the armor value of this piece is the smallest overall, and so you you lose a lot less armor if you put your light piece here as opposed to putting it on one of the larger pieces. So try and put it on the waist piece if you need to put it on an armor location. That's the best place to put it, in my opinion. You'll have a beefier, more resistant character if you do that. So moving on, the Corpseburster Bracers is the medium gloves of Corpseburster with a Magicka glyph, and this is also in Divines. Corpseburster Guards in Divines with a Magicka glyph as well, and then we also have the Corpseburster Boots in Divines with a Magicka glyph as well. As always, the Velothi is in a Bloodthirsty trait with a weapon damage glyph on it. And then we have Oblivion's Foe Rings. Both of them are Bloodthirsty with weapon damage as well. Okay, so that is the gear. Let's go into the champion points. The green tree, really quickly, as always, I always have the same here. Steed's Blessing, Master Gatherer, Gifted Rider, and Warmount in the green tree. The red tree, I pretty much have the same Boundless Vitality, Fortified. If you're parsing or not out in content, then put Rejuvenation on. If you go out into content, then you need to put Siphoning Spells in the place of Rejuvenation and slot it. And then the last slottable that I have is Celerity for the increase in movement speed. So those are the slottables for the red tree. For the blue tree, I have Deadly Aim, which is increasing single target damage by 6%, as well as Master at Arms. And you might think, well, this is a lot of AoE damage. Shouldn't you slot Biting Aura? I have done parses with this. Let me turn on my Battle Scrolls add-on. I don't remember if I still have the parse or not. If I don't, then I'll just have to reparse here for a second to show you the numbers on this. So this is something I recommend that you do, is use the Battle Scrolls add-on to verify what slottables you should put on your build. That is the best way to verify. I've done a video on the Battle Scrolls add-on. I will put a link in the description for that video. Basically, you can do a parse here and look at, okay, that's a different build. We'll just get rid of that for simplicity. That's a different build. I may have to just redo it because I think I have removed. I was working on another build previously, so all right, I'll just reactivate things here and I'll use it as a demonstration of the build in action. So as I said, I'm using a different food. Let's go over the food and potions real quickly. The food that I'm using is crunchy spider skulls, or skewers, excuse me, crunchy spider skewers. And why this is important, it gives me max magicka in the amount of 4,592, but it buffs my stamina recovery by 459. Now, why is that important? Because I've got a stamina spammable here that I need to sustain. And the other thing is I have some stamina skills mixed in, so it's pretty balanced with magicka and stamina. And I have a decent amount of recovery. Let me put the food back on. So as you can see, my magicka goes up to 31,339. And then this gets my stamina recovery up a little bit better. I have a big magicka bar to work with, but with a smaller stamina bar, I need this to refill quite a bit in order to sustain the spammable like I do. The other thing I run is the tripod, and that is going to help me with keeping everything up because it's going to give me major endurance, major intellect to increase my recoveries by 30%. So we'll just activate the build here, get some pre-buff skills going. And I'll show you the poison skill. Hits one guy, and there's a blow up there because of the Nerien'eth. And then there's a Corpseburster right there. I just activated that, and now I can just kind of cycle through and get everything going. And as you can see, the damage ramps up pretty well once I get going. And we'll analyze the Battle Scrolls add-on here in a second once I get. But as you can see, I'm rolling through my skills pretty regularly, and I'm not running out of resources. I'm able to sustain both my Magicka and my stamina while firing off this stuff. And the thing to remember while you're doing this is, one, you need to keep your Oblivion's foe up every 10 seconds. And then the other thing is as soon as you have a corpse available to consume, you want to consume that with one of your corpse spells. So that's the one thing to keep in mind here. These dummies are never going to just die altogether because they have different life meters, but we'll just go through the rotation one more time here to kind of illustrate. But this is just to demonstrate how much of a visual build this is. This has a lot of animation to it. As you can see, this is really fun to play. It's easy to sustain. As you can see, I'm not running out of resources. As I said, I'm not getting the benefit of enemies dying a whole lot here because they don't die that fast, but that gives you a good 2 minutes of run through there. And so what we can do is we'll go into the Battle Scrolls add-on. I have to get rid of that there. It's a refire. And now we can look and see at what type of damage I have. And as you can see, I have 54% direct damage. And now it's showing AoE, so I'll have to switch that. I thought I had a single target. So it is AoE on this. I misremembered that. I've been working with a lot of different builds. So you want to slot Biting Aura instead. And that's why I use the Battle Scrolls add-on, so you can do that verification. So you just go into Journal, go down to Battle Scrolls, and then pull up your Parse. When you go over to the Damage tab, you look right down the middle where it says Composition, and you can see the different damage types. So 81% AoE, 18% single target, and as you can see, the Gravelord's Sacrifice and Corpseburster are way up there in damage for leading the way, which is really not that surprising because Gravelords is buffing a lot of your toolkit there, and so it gets credit for that. Corpseburster is really, really cool and fun to play with. And as I said, if you don't keep this up as much, then it's not going to register. If you keep this up every 10 seconds, then this Oblivion's foe can do some serious damage, and it kind of pairs with this hand in hand. So it kind of looks worse than it actually is because these two are kind of going together. And Nerien'eth is obviously a really good AoE direct damage skill or set that can go off. The cooldown is every 3 seconds, so this can really fire off a lot if you just keep doing direct damage. And I mean, it has potential to fire off all the time. There's the Lich chain right there. You can see there's a lot of things you can fire off on this build and just have a lot of fun with it. For anybody who's concerned about this not parsing well, just a quick note on Gravelords in general. The Gravelord skill line does not register very well on the combat dummy, and the reason why is because a large amount of the kit is provided with penetration and the major vulnerability from the Colossus, major breach and minor vulnerability from the Boneyard skill. Those buffs are already provided by the dummy, so it's kind of, you don't get a real true good assessment of what the Gravelord's skill line can do for you in content. When you take this into content, it really shines a lot more, and that's kind of why I parse on these over here, because this is a more true representation of what you're going to get in content. These dummies don't give you any buffs. They also have resistance, and they've got a lot more reasonable life bar than what you're going to encounter in content. So that's why I like to use these for testing builds if they're not for trials, basically. I got these all added or closed up here so that you can put AoEs on them and really fire that off. But I've covered the food, the potions, the gear, the CP, the skills. I've given you the name of the build. Give it a try if you think it's a lot of fun. One real quick thing, I know that Infinite Archive can be kind of a pain in the ass to farm gear sets for, so I will travel into the Infinite Archive. If you're not aware, there is a fairly easy way to farm gear sets in there if you're not aware, so I'm going to show that in the video really quickly, because I know that this can be kind of a pain to farm that place out, because you go all the way to Thoat and you only get one piece of gear, and it can be a kind of a pain. So how you're going to get to the Infinite Archive, if you're not aware, you come onto the map here and you back out to where you can see this view here. When you're kind of out looking at the globe, you're going to go to Apocrypha, which is up here at about the 11 o'clock position. When you get to Apocrypha, then you're just going to go to the Infinite Archive. Let me back out of that so we can get a better. When you see that stick drift like that, it means you basically had your stick not in home position when you zoomed in. So just take a second to let your stick to go back to home position and then zoom in on the map, and then it won't do that. I know I'm guilty of doing it a lot, but the Infinite Archive is located right here, kind of northeast central, what you call it. Infinite Archive. You travel in. And when you get in here, there's the mission that you do. Again, I've done a video on the Infinite Archive. I can link that as well if anybody's interested in watching that. It's kind of an older video, but it still has relevance. The main mission giver is here, and then they have an auxiliary mission over here from this ghost. Reason why they're not active is I have them currently picked up. But the vendor that you're going to want to go in, the currency that you get in this arena, if you're not aware, they're called fortunes. You look down towards the bottom, it's archival fortunes. I currently have 3,590. You get fortunes for completing rounds in the Infinite Archive, and when you kill bosses, you get coffers that have fortunes in it. There are two main vendors in here. The one that is kind of straight south and that has the large background on it. So when you come up here, it's actually to the east, I'm sorry. When you're looking straight up here, it's just behind the main stage here, and you go to the east. This is the weekly vendor that resets every Tuesday, Filer Ul. There's always coins on this table. And then the other vendor is over here to the north. And the way you can determine which one is which, this Filer Ul is on the ground level. There's no stairs up to him. The main vendor that stays the same, or vendors, I should say, there's two of them over here. When you walk up to this platform, stairs appear, and you walk up to this vendor here. There's the Filer Teasers. This has just archival coffers that you can buy and style pages, and these are they don't change ever. Then they have the account-wide buffs down here at the bottom that you can buy. However, the other one that's here is the Filer Brax. This is the one that you want to come to if you want to purchase gear set pieces. Now, if you want a curated drop, you'll have to buy an expensive 10,000. I would not recommend this until you get your gear set filled in more. I would start off by buying these blue coffers because they're only 2,000. You can buy 5 coffers to 1 of these. So if you don't have very much of the set collected, start off by doing this. You're going to get a lot of new pieces if you just buy this, and it doesn't take a whole lot of time to get 2,000 fortunes. It's really quick to get that, so you can really farm this gear set off really quickly, especially if you farm the Infinite Archive on a Necromancer. The gear piece that you get when you kill Thoat will be a Necromancer piece. So it may not be Corpseburster, it might be Nobility and Decay. However, you do have a 50-50 chance of getting this set here if you're actually on a Necromancer. And then when you get done with that round or however many rounds you run, you can come over here and spend your fortunes on this and fill your sticker book a lot quicker if that's something you're wanting to pursue. So I just wanted to cover that in case you're watching this video and saying, hey, I don't have Corpseburster. That's a really good way to farm that gear set out and obtain it really quickly. I am going to end the video here. Hopefully this was interesting and fun to watch, and hopefully you give it a try. This is a really fun build. As I said, there's a lot of AoE damage on this. I'll just go into the archive here really quickly and kill some enemies live to close out the video. If you thought this video was helpful and interesting, please consider liking the video and subscribing to my channel. I have over 280 videos on the Elder Scrolls Online, and I'm growing the channel as fast as I can. And I also have created playlists on there that organize everything, and so it is growing every day, and I have everything organized so that you can find stuff easily. If you are interested in specific things, it is organized for you there. So thank you very much for watching, and have a great day. Bye.